Okay, we're on the air for another Memory Jogger podcast. Thanks everybody for watching over on the Rediscover the 80s YouTube channel. There's Wyatt over there. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing well, Jason. How are you? This has been a long time, unfortunately, with any type of memory jogger, whether it's a special edition or just the average Joe episode.
Yeah.
But I want to say
we've been kind of busy.
Busy, and then my laptop finally decided it was time for a grave, unfortunately. So there was that technical difficulty. But we're back online, and want to say thank you for joining us.
Yep.
I guess we'll crank this out.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun episode. Another one of our special episodes as a part of the 80s League, and we'll tell you a little bit about it here when we get the show going. But appreciate everybody tuning in, and let's get on with it. Welcome back to the Memory Jogger. Welcome back to Memory Jogger on the Rediscover the 80s podcast. I'm Jason, and he is Wyatt.
I am Wyatt. How's everybody doing out there in, well, I'd say Radio Land, but it's not really Radio Land anymore. Web Land.
Web Land, there you go. Yeah.
Podland.
We are once again ready to jog our memories and run down a few childhood dreams, as I always say. And we appreciate everybody tuning in who gets our podcast from your favorite app or maybe over there on the Throwback Network. And also all of our YouTube viewers who tune in and watch our recording sessions and get the unedited version, I'll say, on the Rediscover the 80s channel. And we've got a fun show for you tonight. Wyatt, we got a special episode that we're going to do as a part of another 80s League crossover event. And this time the subject is 80s commercials. And we've essentially narrowed that down to Saturday morning commercials.
We pretty much have, although a lot of things started hitting me of all things today with just the variety. I'm sure that they weren't totally Saturday morning cartoons, or I'm sorry, commercials, but I know I've seen them from time to time during the 80s, and it just flourished me with everything pounding through my head with the variety.
Yeah, and again, we haven't really done the full research on all the commercials we're going to be talking about tonight, but assuming that toys, cereal, those kind of commercials are going to be during your Saturday morning cartoon block, from I was about 6 a.m. till say about 10 or 11, depending on what year and when some of the other programs like Pee-wee's Playhouse and Saved by the Bell started to hit that were beyond animation. But yeah, we're going to try to hit those commercials that we believe were played during what we would sit down and watch as part of our Saturday morning. And we're going to include not just the regular, 30-second commercials that we would see. We're also going to talk a little bit about the bumpers in between the show, where most every show had these, where it was like, I'm Matt Tracker and we're going to get Venom. We'll be right back. And then you have on the opposite side of the commercial, you'll have somebody else say, Miles Mayhem here, and we're going to get Mask, and then they'll get back into the show. So those little bumpers, we're going to talk about those a little bit. And also going to talk about some PSAs that we remember seeing. And man, there's a ton of those as well on all different kinds of topics. So this is going to be pretty fun tonight, and looking forward to getting back to Saturday morning the way it used to be.
Exactly.
Well, we've got a few comments here as we like to go into our listener feedback first. All three of these came mainly from our last show where we talked about our early cars and driving experiences. We had first Jer Bachman said, "Oh man, I think I was right there in the car with you for most of these stories. We must have all done these crazy things in the days before the internet. LOL." So yeah, I guess back in the day before we had the internet to get sucked into, we went out in our car and cruised the town and cranked up the radio.
For us, went spotting.
Went spotting. Yeah, we had a lot different. Some of those experiences might have been only around our area, but we appreciate that comment. Brian Roboticist, as he goes by, he also goes by I See Robots. He's got a show on the Throwback Network. He said, "Just listen to this. Really dug it. Great work, dudes." So we appreciate that comment, Brian. And then Sean Johnson, he says, "Listen, yesterday, first car for me was my mother's 1980 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme with T-tops."
Nice.
Man, that's a nice first car.
Yeah, that's a very nice first car. I know that's kind of the cousin to the Monte Carlo, so that's an awesome ride right there.
Yeah, those were a lot of custom work done on those, I remember. And, soup those up and would see those at like the drag strips and stuff back in the day. So that was a great first car. But yeah, that's our listener feedback on our last show. And that was a really fun one to do. If you haven't listened to that yet, go back and check that out on our early cars and all of Wyatt's fleet of cars that he had there for several years.
Fleet, yeah, probably is more accurate than not. Yeah, unfortunately.
Right. And then we get into what we like to do each time now is a few icebreaker news headlines that we've noticed over the last couple of weeks. And you had one to start, Wyatt.
Yeah, it's kind of a dual hitter. I was noticing actually yesterday a headline that Catherine Hickland, she was best known probably for us Knight Rider fans as Michael Long's long lost love. Stevie Mason. I know there was another M that Moody, I think, is the other one that they kind of changed her name at one point. But you see her as the blonde girl. In fact, Michael's just about ready to get to marry her, and I think she gets shot or something like that in an episode. But
yeah, I do vaguely remember that.
But she appeared today, and perhaps maybe yesterday too, at the Las Vegas comic strip, basically the Comic Con of Las Vegas. So she was doing a lot of what's the photo ops with people there, and then just right beside that, I also saw that there was a Knight Rider reboot that's in the works. And somehow this missed me. Maybe we discussed this, but I don't remember. But there's a Knight Rider reboot. The announcement was in January.
Yes.
And they're bringing the producer. Actually, it's being produced rather by Justin Lin, who is famous for Fast and the Furious. So I don't know how are they going to soup up, a Trans Am and make it with a blower and the big, huge slicks in the back end, or are they going to, at least have it somewhat right, or are they going to? I'm going to paraphrase because I liked Knight Rider 2008. It took me a little bit to get used to, but I liked it. But others will say that really ruined Knight Riders. So are they going to ruin it in some people's eyes and make it some funky Mustang that everybody knows is in existence? Or is it going to be some new concept car? That's my my kind of wonder. Or if they're going to throw it back to the 80s and kind of do like the Star Trek trend has been doing. They've been trying to kick it all the way back to before Kirk. But you have this real modern sci-fi, almost touchscreen appearing gadgetry, unlike, Captain Kirk's, where it just had switches and LED lights, and you hoped that it looked halfway decent with his chair. But I'm just kind of curious what Knight Rider's going to look like.
Yeah, just from what I've heard, and this was early on when they first made this announcement, that they were shooting for some kind of just like YouTube series, just an online series, not broadcast. So I don't know if that's still the plan or what's going on with that, but and again, who knows where they're going to go with it, what Kit is going to look like. It would be fun, kind of like you said, maybe to do somewhat of a prequel and show how Kit came about and maybe take it from there instead of going after, wherever 2008 left off, or I don't even know if it really had an ending. Did it?
It kind of had a cliffhanger, but yeah, that's exactly what it hung on to nothing.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Well, maybe it's just better they do something fresh and new. And I mean, I don't really. Obviously, Justin Lin's got the pedigree for making some awesome action sequences and all that with all those Fast and Furious movies and such. But I don't know. I always think of Kit as more of a custom car and not any particular model. So yeah, the Mustang was okay for me. I wouldn't say that it really did anything, and all of the iterations of Ford that it transformed into.
I want to have a discussion. Honestly, I want to do maybe a memory jogger, or maybe we can actually spin it off and rediscover the 80s podcast. I want to have a discussion with you about Knight Rider and all its entities. Not that I've seen Team Knight Rider, but I'd like to see it and kind of do an episode of where we go kind of what our take was and try to be as fairly open-minded as possible without going, okay, they all suck. Keep the original Kit, or some kind of discussion like that.
Yeah. Well, I've tried twice now to get through the 2008 show and haven't quite made it to the end. This last effort, I think I got through maybe 12 episodes.
I like it. I like it as it goes. It's improving, and not only because they start hinting towards the foundation, like they're finding the archives and stuff, and that's what was starting to really draw me in. And then they didn't get picked up. I'm like, are you serious? That they could have actually introduced the real Kit? Are you kidding me? So
yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's definitely another show.
Definitely,
because I know we could both talk about it for at least an hour. Yeah,
at least me.
The other headline I saw just today, being the Ghostbusters fan and actually collecting some figures and such along the way the last couple of years, the company Diamond Select, the company Diamond Select, who released a wave of figures, I believe just last year or maybe the year before, and they created this nice little diorama of like the rooftop scene with Gozer. They're coming out with another wave of figures, actually 5 waves of figures for Ghostbusters 2. And there's going to be 15 in all. And the first 3 that's coming out in wave 1, which I saw today, was Ray in a Santa hat. And I was trying to remember exactly in the movie when they got their Santa hats on. It might have been during some montage, because I don't remember any extended scene in Ghostbusters 2 with like Santa hats on. The other one is Louis Tully in the Ghostbusters uniform, like right at the end when he shows up to the museum. He's got those earmuffs on, so that figure looked pretty fun. And then the last one, which I'm kind of excited about, is Vigo. They're going to have a figure of Vigo the Carpathian. So, and they looked really cool. If the story that I saw was over on Nerdist, and so if you want to check them out over there. So looking forward to seeing some Ghostbusters 2 figures come out, and more of my ever shrinking wallet going by the wayside.
I try with you, except for practical reasons.
Yeah, right. I try to be selective, and there's really only been a few figures that I've actually pre-ordered that I was really so excited for, you know.
Right.
And I've seen some of these. I think these are the same ones that I've seen over at Toys R Us from Diamond Select, and they're really detailed and really nice. But
So, to answer your question,
mhm.
all of them are wearing Santa hats, and it's right there where they're doing the montage because they're all back, and they do the little
Okay,
tiny split
yeah,
scenes of them carrying their
that's
traps, in and out of different
that's where I
places.
was thinking. That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking. Yeah, cool. Okay. And another story I saw today that just cracked me up that this is actually going to exist now.
This is cool. I like this. I might buy this.
USA Opoly, who mainly makes custom versions of Monopoly. There's a Ghostbusters Monopoly out there. They're instead of making Monopoly though, they're making a version of the board game Clue featuring the Golden Girls.
Yes.
I I saw the actual board, and it's just a layout of their house, with the kitchen and the living room and all that stuff. And each of the little pieces that they use, like the murder weapons is like Blanche's shoe and Sophia's hat or something. It's crazy stuff like that. But I don't know, man. This Golden Girls, I don't know, rejuvenation, I guess you'll say, over the last couple of years is just cracking me up. They made action figures last year, Funko did, and now they're on streaming on Hulu. So I don't know, it's fun. I
I
think.
I got to know if they're going to have lines in it like, shut up Blanche or back in St. Olaf, that kind of stuff. I just got to I want to see the lines. I think that's more why I want to buy it, is to see what the cards or how the game plays out, to see if they come up with things like that.
I'm sure they will. It's but it's just funny to me how popular they are or have become over the last couple of years. It seems like people just going out, and those action figures. I remember those being announced, and they came to, I think it was Toy Fair this year in February, and then they got a short little release to, I think it was Target online, and they were just sold out just like that. And I don't know what they were going for on eBay, something ridiculous.
Of course.
But it was, I don't know. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And then one more headline we'll throw out there. See if you remember this movie, but Netflix is releasing, they did a little tease, not really a trailer. They're this new TV series. It's a prequel to Jim Henson's 1982 film, The Dark Crystal. And I do remember seeing this sometime in the 80s when I was a kid. And it's these huge, like vulture-like creatures. I can't remember what the names are. And the little elves, and they have to go on this quest, and man, those vulture creatures, they just scared the crap out of me as a kid. Didn't really like the movie. And I went back and watched it, maybe last year or the year before on Netflix, and could appreciate it a little bit more. But still, I guess I would say not one of my favorites as far as Jim Henson goes. I would rather watch, I guess, Labyrinth or something like that than The Dark Crystal. Maybe one of the Muppet, movies. But did you remember seeing this movie?
I do, and I remember the vulture scene pretty well. I think they were eating like a grog bowl of food of some sort, and they burp at the table. What's sad is I haven't seen that probably since the 80s. So that's the one scene I do remember. Don't remember much anything else. I know the vultures did spook me, and then, but obviously I lived through it. But it's kind of neat. I like that they're trying to rebirth stuff, and another discussion ahead would be on Voltron, where they keep rebirthing Voltron, but they can't keep it seem to keep it going, although Netflix has succeeded. They've gotten it to season 2, whereas Voltron 3D and the I'm trying to think who made it. The last one, Cartoon Network or someone made the one in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And they both only lasted 1 season. So Netflix made it to 2 seasons, and they made it to, you have the Voltron Lions now that you can buy. So
Yeah.
maybe I'm tempted. I won't lie. I'm tempted to get the Voltron Lions, the newer ones, but it's hard to give up my old Voltron.
I just started watching season 2 after finishing up season 1. It was a pretty long break before I watched like the first 5 episodes or something, and then finished up season 1. And I'm liking it more. That they seem to have a groove. They kind of know, where to go, how far to go. They have the backing behind, what is it, DreamWorks Studios, that they really need to, I guess, probably make it cost efficient and be able to, go past that first season, which they've done. And I think they've already announced season 3.
They have
this year. So that's good. I'm really excited. I'm starting to get the itch like you to pick up some of the toys. I actually was in Walmart yesterday and was down the clearance aisle and found the Blazing Sword. I'm going to give to my middle son as a little thank you for getting good grades this year in school for $5.
So, sweet.
Yeah, it was that was a no-brainer. And it kind of extends out. I think there's a little button you hit and then it, fully extends. And he even showed it to me one day when we were in the store and we were looking at the Voltron things. Oh, look, there's the sword. So I'm excited to give that to him. Actually, kind of excited to play with it myself. But
of course,
yeah, it is fun that Netflix seems to have a niche now with being able to do some of these projects. And I'm excited. I'm definitely going to check this out and see what it's like, because just from the preview, it didn't really show too much of anything other than the I guess you would call puppeteers or the robotics and animators, messing around with things. And it's just Jim Henson talking about how this was probably his favorite project out of all of the things that he did throughout his career. So go check out that little teaser on YouTube. And I don't know. I can't remember exactly when it's supposed to hit, but it's fun. I'm glad Netflix is doing this.
Yeah.
So
I guess that leads us on to the actual show, which is Saturday.
Let's do it.
Our best at early morning or early memories of, I'll try that again. I guess that leads us into our show. That is earliest memories of Saturday cartoons. Probably more so getting into commercials and like you hinted at, maybe outtakes or outros and intros rather, and PSAs and so forth. But we'll start it off by, since we're targeting Saturday morning, were there any, I'll call it rituals while watching, or maybe setting up for the long 5-6 hour morning?
Well, I do remember getting up fairly early. I don't know. I was more of a sleep-in kid than one that would, set his alarm and get up at 6 o'clock and start watching right away. But, I would say I was probably up by 7 or 8, and just depending on what shows were on and what years, it was, I guess, determined by when I was going to get up. But I do remember going out. The first thing I would get was my cereal. And we had those, we had Tupperware. My mom sold Tupperware. So I had like Tupperware bowls, but I also remember we had these like wooden salad bowls that I always used for cereal as well. And I go get my bowl of cereal, and then I had this like blue futon chair that you could, lay out and would become essentially a bed. But I would lean it up kind of like this for you YouTube viewers, almost like like an upside down V, or like a triangle, like a tent. Yes. So I would the two long pieces of the futon. I would do that, and you'd have a little headrest off to the side, and then I'd get a blanket and put over the top of that, mainly to cover up the back of the futon. So I was kind of inside almost like a tent, and I'd have my bowl of cereal and set that up in front of the TV, and I was good to go. So that was, I guess that was my main ritual that I can remember on Saturday mornings. And I didn't have any brothers and sisters, so it was pretty much a free for all for whatever I wanted to do, as long as mom and dad didn't object to it, but didn't have to fight with a sibling or something to grab the futon and set it up or whatever. I had pretty much free reign of the house. So what about you? Do you remember getting up early?
I'm like you. There was no such thing as an alarm, but I did tend to get up, I would say, earlier than most people in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I would grab my blanket. I was kind of like Linus back in the day. I had my favorite blanket, and I toted that for a number of years. And funny enough, I still have it in my memorabilia box. So
nice.
Yeah. Nonetheless, like you, I go down, just grab a bowl of cereal, and that was one of the few times we were allowed to eat in the living room. My mom was pretty strict about it. We could have popcorn on Friday nights if we were watching like Knight Rider or Airwolf, whatever was the Friday night cool show at the time. And then cereal bowls were allowed as long as we were careful. But I remember just jumping up on the couch, and the couch never actually faced the TV. Didn't make sense. But anyway, the couch didn't. But if you laid, lengthwise down it like you're laying on it, perfect lay back and rest on it. So that's what I would do.
Gotcha.
I'd wrap myself up or cover myself up with my blanket, lean against it, and chomp on whatever I was eating. And, just downside is I had no remote control, so if I wanted to change the channel, I had to get up and.
Yep.
I usually had first dibs because I got up early enough. But usually, when my sister got up, I had to at least allow her the opportunity to change the channel, which wasn't too difficult. There weren't too many shows. I did have to. I can't remember if it appeared on Saturday mornings. I think it did. I had to relinquish control.
Say that again. Say that again, because you kind of buzzed out.
Oh, so I had to. When my sister would get up, I did have to relinquish control to be fair to her for certain TV shows. So, like, I think it was Saturday mornings. So, like, My Little Pony, or if She-Ra was on, all the girl shows. She never got into Gem, but My Little Pony, she was big into that. Strawberry Shortcake.
Mm-hmm.
And I think She-Ra, she caught into most everything else. She was pretty, it was pretty equal, fair play. So Looney Tunes were a big thing then. Garfield. I can't remember what else we watched, but yeah, just setting up mostly for me, just a cozy little place and just jumping on Cocoa Puffs or whatever.
Yeah, I was trying to remember some of the shows that I would get up for. I was huge into the Smurfs, and I know the Smurfs was probably one of the longest running Saturday morning shows throughout the 80s, because it started maybe 81 or 82, and I think it went all the way through like 88 or 89. And at some point, I think it went to an hour long, so you were getting like, I don't know, I think the Smurfs kind of split their episodes over the half-hour shows, if I remember right. So you're getting like 4 little mini episodes of the Smurfs. And yeah, that was a big one for me for a long time. And then there's a few more along the way I remember watching, and even in the later 80s, which would have been my, early teen years, I was still watching like the Gummy Bears and just waiting to get to, Pee-wee, and like I mentioned earlier there, and maybe it was at the pre-show, Pee-wee and Saved by the Bell. I remember in the late 80s, those were kind of like the last shows I'd watch and then head outside. And those were always like late morning, the live action shows.
Right.
So yeah, oh man, it was just so much fun too. And it was appointment television. We've talked a little bit about this before, I think, on Memory Jogger, but
Yep.
You just don't have that anymore with streaming at your fingertips whenever you want it. You can hit play and, start binge watching. And back then, man, it was like either right after school, those couple hours right before dinner when you got like Transformers and G.I. Joe, or it was Saturday morning when you got like 5 or 6 hours of it. And that was usually the only time you could just, set your watch to get some cartoons in.
Right. Like you said, I do miss that appointment television. However, I feel like I'm wavering on the fence. I do kind of like the whole Netflix, Hulu, where you can just go whenever you want and just play and watch whatever you want at your fingertips. The downside is I am so not up on whatever's out there right now. So my 1-year-old right now is huge into Thomas the Train. It's hilarious watching him. Anything that he sees at Choo Choo, he just toot toot, and is a magnet. Huh? My 5-year-old now, he's just whatever is out there. He was just introduced to Pokemon, and I never watched it. It doesn't make sense to me what little I did watch of it, and he's just loving it. I'm like, dude, okay, that's your thing. Sorry. But no, it's fun. I'm trying to get him into he's been listening to the theme songs to certain shows like I grew up with. So he's been listening to Thundercats, which I showed him the intro to that. He's really eager to go watch the show now. And the 66 Batman. He's eager to go see those. But I guess that leads us into our next topic, which is really like our memorable bumpers. So do you remember anything like for the networks or TV shows or, that 80s craze that they were trying to do like filler? Sometimes I felt like it was a filler.
Yeah. And they, I don't know, it seemed like every show had their own bumper. So, if you're watching the Smurfs, it was just somebody saying, the Smurfs will be right back after these messages. And you get a picture of, just a scene of the Smurfs. So every show had that. But the ones I remember more, I guess, are the ones that kind of didn't have really anything to do with the actual show you're watching. Except for maybe the one that I really remember was Saturday Supercade. If you remember that show, where it was basically a bunch of mini shows tied to video game characters. So they had there was a Frogger segment, there was a Q*bert segment, there was a Pitfall Harry segment, there was a Donkey Kong segment, and it was all like little, 7-8 minute episodes. And in between, for the bumpers, when they were going to commercial and coming out of commercial, they would have like these little video game scenes. And I don't think there was anything really it was more generic stuff. So you would see like a little spaceship flying through and going like right into a screen of a video arcade machine, stuff like that. and I think there was one that was more looked like Space Invaders with all the little characters, and the font, the font of the, we'll be right back for these messages, was like that real boxy 80s video game font, like an 8-bit font. And that one kind of sticks out in my mind for based on a particular show. But there was always I guess maybe towards the late 80s, they put some kids like in a control room like you would in a TV studio, and then they were like pushing buttons and making the little switches go up and down, and we'll be right back with more Pee-wee's Playhouse. And they would have like multiple little screens in front of them, and you'd see little scenes from Pee-wee's Playhouse. And I don't know, it always made me like want to be a control room person. And I'm always a little fidget and gadget kind of person, so for them to to push all those buttons and stuff, I was like jealous. That's a couple I remember. You've mentioned before, I think maybe even on this show, or maybe it was over on Masscast, that these bumpers for ABC were some of your favorites.
Yeah.
Yes, you've got it up there on your. That's exactly what I'm talking about right there.
Yeah, I'm sorry for those watching, especially on YouTube. I just figured out I could do some screen sharing. So, audio listeners, you're missing out. You got to really watch this on YouTube now.
You're gonna have to show me how to do this now.
Offline, but nonetheless, yeah. The one that still sticks out to my right now is ABC. I loved me some old Looney Tunes. That was probably the one thing I couldn't live without. I could probably bypass any other show except Looney Tunes. I loved watching Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner and all that. So ABC had these claymation type characters, and they would sing at the corny, after these messages, we'd be right back. And you'd see them, basically their heads would roll and switch out on the bodies, which didn't make sense. It was corny. Maybe I can find it. Unless that's the one that sticks out. I don't remember. I don't remember many other in betweens. The control room that you're talking about is come up with two things with that. One, we did have the figured it out again. There you go. That's the one I remember. After these messages.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I remember our local CBS station, WTAJ, had a show called Action News Kids, and it was legit, probably teenagers, but they were doing the exact same stuff, kid-based, but they'd have the stories, and it'd be I think a 30-minute, maybe longer, but at least a 30-minute broadcast of kids in the news and so forth. So that's what I thought you were talking about.
Okay.
There was also a show that I used to watch. I remember telling you about some time ago, called Kid Songs. It was kind of, I don't know why I got into this. Something drew me in. I guess it was because it was the songs themselves. But the intro started out just like you were saying. It started out as like they were walking into a studio, like an abandoned TV station, and they just started broadcasting, and that was the end of it. I can't seem to find a picture of that right now, but nonetheless, that was what I remember. Maybe that's what you remembered seeing.
No, I'll have to show you, because it was just mainly bumpers, and I ran across a few back in the days when I was doing a lot of Vine videos, like those little short 6-second videos. I think Twitter shut down that application now, but I ran across a couple of those bumpers and actually shared them. And I mean, it was just basically, it looked like they just threw kids in there and they were trying to make it look kind of professional. But it was just for like little 5 or 6-second segments to intro and outro whatever show was going on. So, yeah, it's, I don't know. It's just funny how you can pick out certain things and remember certain things along the way. Another one I remember, it was mainly from CBS, and I think that actually the control room one was CBS because I remember seeing, like I said, Pee-wee and Garfield and Friends. I think those are all CBS shows. But anyway,
Yeah.
CBS did these little bumpers that weren't, there was no like words or there was no like announcement that this was, you know, we'll be right back or now back to whatever show. But it was like these outer space scenes, and they had this real kind of synthesized, bassy kind of music in the background, and they would show you some little designs and stuff. I might have to just look some of these up and paste in some of the the music and, you know, some of the actual things here. But that was another one that just kind of stuck out in my mind, and again, that was just from doing some research there a while back when I was doing those Vine videos that I found those and posted them. And I just have to go out and find them right now. Then I'm thinking about it, see if my Vine page is still out there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just fun because, you know, Saturday mornings, yeah, you're there to watch the cartoons, but they're still trying to entertain you and get you to go look at, you know, the commercials and stuff to keep you, and then
Stuck.
coming back to the show. Yeah. So they're trying to, they're trying to keep your attention, and all these little bumpers in and out of the show are just to keep you there and not switch the channel.
Right.
Anyway, I'm gonna go find that, and eventually we'll maybe I'll put it up on the screen here if I can figure out how to do that. But let's go, I guess, out of the bumpers and maybe go into some of the PSAs that we remember, because these were rampant, and there was several different ways they did this. There was, like you were saying, I think there were some segments that the network would do, and they'd bring in a celebrity. But there's also just, you know, like 30-second or 1-minute commercials on on everything from you know, nutrition to you know, safety, and then drugs. I mean, how many PSAs on drugs can we could probably do a whole show on that, because it seems like they were doing one of those every break. But
yeah,
what are some that stick out in your mind?
Well, one of them I'm just putting up now, the old crash test dummies.
Oh yes,
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your seatbelt. I think it would have been more comical had they added Christopher Lloyd. You know, I mean, the way he says stuff. But
yeah,
I remember
guess
crash test dummies quite a bit. I'm trying to think of trying to punch up one now just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, another one here just came to mind, and I'm quick enough to do it. Is your brain's on drugs? This is your brain on drugs, and they use a frying egg, sunny side up.
Yes, this is your brain. This is your brain on drugs.
Any questions? Oh, man, there were so many back then. Do you remember any?
There we go. There's one that I remember That's the Saturday
Yeah.
Supercade where the little ship is flying through. That was almost like Zaxxon. Uh, really enjoyed that one. Yeah, I mean the drug PSAs and uh, you know, back then. What was the other one? Oh, it was the one with the parent that catches the kid with the pot, and he's like, "Is this yours? Where'd you get this? Who gave this to you? How did you learn how to? I learned it by watching you. Okay, it's hokey now, but back then it was still somewhat serious business. And then the announcer comes on and he's all serious. Parents who do drugs have children who do drugs. Um,
Is that the one you're talking about right there?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's it. um, how about like the mascots? There was some that I remembered along with the crash test dummies, but how about McGruff the crime dog?
Oh, yes.
He he was a big staple, and then Smokey the Bear, of course.
Yes. Smokey the
your
Bear,
fire safety.
Gruff. Yeah. They were all big out there. It's pretty. I guess it's all about the cartoons or something that's going to catch you.
Right.
Smokey the Bear. I mean, you can see it there. Punch it up on my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Just these guys seem to not die. I still see McGruff periodically in the news. I still see Smokey. Obviously, he's plastered up on all. If there's any woods nearby or some kind of state park, he's there. But I still see him surface, not on commercials anymore, but I see him periodically show up in a Facebook post where they pose with the mascot. So it's actually cool that they keep it alive. Just not as popular as it used to be.
Right. And then another one that I just remember a lot of, and these were actually fun because they came with songs. And the one that I mainly remember is the lightning bug. There he is.
Louis the Lightning Bug. Yeah.
He was always talking about power lines. If power lines are down, don't you hang around, and all those safety PSAs that they would play. And then the health like nutrition and stuff that they would do. One of them, I'm going to try to find him because he was kind of like a cowboy. And one of them, I remember he was talking about cheese. Yeah, I'm going to have to find it.
I gave Jason a new toy. Now he's going to play with this every
I'm going to have to. I mean,
or
there he is. There he is. Got a hanker for a hunk of cheese. There you go. Oh my God. I can't believe I found this, but yeah, I'm going to share it right now. There's the guy. He would sing little songs. Dude. And there was also some where he was talking about vegetables and stuff like that. He was just around for a long time. That's a smaller picture, but it's him talking about basically eating vegetables as a snack when you come home from school, instead of going for the chips and all that stuff.
That's too cool.
That was another one I remember as far as PSAs go. You got any more?
Well, I didn't think this was a 80s started it or still going, or I guess I didn't know what era this was from, but NBC One to Grow On. And then they also had a thing, the things you know.
The more you know, yeah.
The more you know. Those
Yeah.
were the two things that they seemed to throw at you periodically.
Yeah. The one to grow on was mainly Saturday mornings, and they would take, your celebrity of the day. I remember seeing a few Murdoch from the A-Team, Dwight Schultz, he did one. Ricky Schroeder, Michael J. Fox, all those, like stars of shows of the time. They would something would happen or something at the beginning, and then they would come on. Hi, I'm Dwight Schultz, and this is one to grow on. And you come back from the break, and they teach you a little lesson or something.
Speaking of, here's Mr. T.
Yes, there you go.
There's old Dwight Schultz.
Yep. That's great. Yeah, those were, and they had a little intro with these kids at the beginning. I do remember that now, seeing these pictures, and they're
Ricky Schroeder
looking at the TV set. There you go. They had a little kid. He says something like, "I want the ball," and then they'd go into the actual PSA. But yeah, well, we could probably keep going on these PSAs because there was so many. There's one out there of like Pee Wee Herman, and he's doing a PSA for not smoking crack. And there's just some strange ones out there. I'm the kind of person, you go to YouTube, you're looking for something, and that little column on the right just owns me, man. All the recommendations, because I will click and click and click, and an hour later I'm still clicking through those recommendations. When I get on a particular topic. But
there's David Hasselhoff. I'm scrolling down now. You got me hooked. I better stop.
Yeah.
I'll be here for a while.
All right. Well, let's go into some of the actual commercials now that we remember. That we would think would be Saturday mornings. And let's start off with some cereal commercials.
Yeah, that was probably the best way to get us kids to go screaming down the cereal aisle when we were going with mom or dad.
Uh-huh.
The one I still remember classic is Old Life cereal with Mikey. Look, Mikey, he likes it.
Yes. He was a very famous kid, and he was also the one that he was part of that urban legend, you remember, where the urban legend was he mixed Pop Rocks with like Pepsi or Coke, and he like died.
I had not heard of that one.
You've never heard that?
No.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you never heard that. I don't know where it came from, but I know there's probably a lot of people out here that remember that. But yeah, the legend was he died from mixing Pop Rocks, the candy that fizzed in your mouth, with soda. And I don't know where that comes from, but
I don't know either.
Mikey, yeah, that was classic for Life cereal. One that I remember, I'm going to put up on the screen right now since I can, is honeycomb. A honeycomb ad with Andre the Giant, and the kids are like in this tree house, and he comes up there, I think, looking for honeycomb, and there's a picture of him.
That's just weird.
Yeah, it's fun. That was one of my favorites from the cereals. What else you got?
I'm trying to look it up right now for you. It seems to be a periodic thing now. You don't see them very often, and that being the old Frankenberry, Count Chocula,
yeah,
Blueberry. I don't even remember old Fruity Yummy Mummy. For some reason, I don't remember him, but I remember the other three.
There's actually another one too. The wolf. It's the cherry flavor.
Fruit Brute.
Oh crap! Fruit Brute. Yes. Yeah. The last few years I've become a connoisseur of monster cereals. because because they I think it was 2 years ago, they did like throwback boxes, so that looked like the boxes back in the 80s, or maybe it was late 70s, and like the all white, and then they had the character on the front, and that was like also the year. Yes, and that's what they kind of brought back, and then they also brought back Fruit Brute and Fruity Yummy Mummy. So you had all 5 cereals, and then as you were just clicking over there, they did something, I think it was last year, where you could use this app and make the box somewhat come to life. It was like a 3D kind of virtual reality thing.
Really?
And,
pretty cool.
That was really fun. Yeah. I actually saved those classic boxes from a couple years ago. But yeah, those were great. And do you know who the original voice of Count Chocula was?
I do, and we met him.
Right.
Trying to remember his name, Larry
Kinney.
Larry Kinney, yeah. And that was so odd. And I remember talking with him how, it's not like when you're watching cartoons, they roll the credits. They don't put the credits on the cereal boxes.
Right. Or the commercials, yeah.
He was one of the original characters. He was also one of the original characters, or the voice, rather, of old... I'm trying to punch it up here for you. I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yes, he was. Larry Kinney, for those of you who don't know, he is the voice of Lion-O on Thundercats and many other things.
Yeah, that was pretty cool to meet him.
Yeah, so he was a couple different cereal mascots back in the day. Another pretty big one that I remember watching and enjoying, and as they added marshmallows to it, they did different adventures and stuff, and that was Lucky Charms.
Oh yeah.
And all the kids are trying to find the Lucky Charms, and he's floating away on balloons, and he's riding jet skis, and he's doing all kinds of things. At one point, I think they even did a maze, and the maze was actually on the back of the box, to find the Lucky. And Lucky Charms commercials were a pretty big staple there. And then how about Fruity Pebbles, man? All the Flintstones, they were like mini episodes almost, of Barney trying to steal Fred's Pebbles.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Back in the day, they're the Tricks Rabbit, they're trying to steal his cereal, and man, these kids are greedy.
They were. And then on top of that, I just hit me today. Actually, just
yes,
Cookie Crisp. They'd actually have the cartoon where the cop is actually chasing the crook there.
Yeah, and they actually put that in with the live action people sometimes as well. I remember that. They did like an actual totally animated commercial, but then there's some point where they actually had live people, and then they put the little characters, in the picture, kind of Roger Rabbit style.
Right.
That was another good one. Cookie Crisp. Yeah. Lots of good commercials, man. These are just flooding back.
That's the downside. They're flooding like crazy, and we're like, this is not a long enough podcast.
Well, you want to transition from cereal to maybe some toys?
Yeah, we better. We're going to be stuck in the toy land. What toys do you remember, especially the commercials? Because I'm sure the jingles probably had you hooked.
Oh, yeah. For me, it was all about the jingles. Not necessarily any particular toy brand, but mainly the toy store commercials. So like Toys R Us, Toys R Us, I don't want to grow up. I want to be a Toys R Us kid. That whole jingle, I think that you probably used that throughout the entire 1980s. And, that using Jeffrey, the giraffe, in some of those commercials as well. I don't know.
Well, and even for us kids, where we lived an hour away from the closest Toys R Us. So going to Toys R Us I mean, that was Christmas. Doesn't matter what day that was for us. That was
Right.
Christmas to us. Because we're like, oh, we're in the mothership of toys. This beats Light Singers any day.
Yeah. Well, I think, did we not have a KB Toys in the Du Bois Mall?
We did. It was like later on, but yes, we
Yeah.
did have KB Toys.
So that was probably the nearest one, and that was still, 15 or 20 minutes up the road, depending on where you're coming from. But yeah, we didn't have like a dedicated toy store nearby. We had to go to Altoona or State College to get our toy fix. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I remember there being like a Toys R Us commercial where they like open up a door, and then this was like Jeffrey's World, where the kids are like frolicking about, and there's mushrooms the size of cars, and stuff. And it was like this magical place, and I don't know what these marketers were smoking back then, but I don't know. There's just like this almost mystical kind of quality about a Toys R Us store. Like Jeffrey was going to pop up and, hey, come to my magical little field with mushrooms taller than cars, I don't know. That was a big one for me.
Right.
What about you?
Well, the jingle that's still stuck in my head to this day, it's one of those where you can't get rid of it no matter what you do. That is My Buddy.
My buddy.
Yes.
My buddy. My buddy and me.
And I'll be dreaming that the rest of the night. Thank you very much.
And Kid Sister. Don't forget Kid Sister.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep, that was her. Kid Sister, My Buddy, and every other one in between. But yeah. It was fun. I miss the Saturday cartoon spots, really. They were fun. Mm-hmm. No matter how much they plague you afterwards.
Right. Right. I don't remember having a lot of like those larger size dolls, like My Buddy, whatever you want to call it. Even like My Pet Monster. You remember My Pet Monster?
Oh yeah.
That was another one. I don't remember the actual toy commercials, but I had a lot of like stuffed animals and just random animals and stuff like that. Not really one of those brand name ones that they really marketed to kids mornings. But anyway, yeah, I do remember My Buddy quite a bit. And yeah, after My Buddy took off, like, Cabbage Patch, they had to get the girl one so they could market to the girls too.
Mm-hmm.
Another one I remember, again, tied to another, not necessarily a toy store, but Hills department stores that we had, I believe, in Altoona and State College, which again was another hour, 45 hour to drive to get there. I remember one instance. I'm fairly young, probably 7, 8 years old, and we were driving to State College to go to Hills, and Hills was a mix of everything. It was like your kind of run-of-the-mill department store back in the day. But around Christmas time, they would do this jingle, "Hills is where the toys are," and they'd have Santa, and they'd have displaying all the toys of the season, for Christmas. And I remember singing that jingle all the way to Hills, probably, 45 minutes in the car. My mother was ready to murder me by the time we got there. But that was another one that, and I know I got that from a commercial. Hills is where the toys are. You remember that one?
I don't remember that specific one. Like you said, Hills is where the toys are. I don't remember that. I do remember a lot of Hills commercials, and I remember, the oval symbol that it had, but I don't remember the Hills is where the toys are.
Oh, and they had this creepy. Oh yeah. Okay, so I gotta put this one up on the screen. They had this creepy little elf that he was the one that introduced all the toys and stuff in the commercial. There he is.
Oh, dude, I remember him.
Okay, here's another one. There's the Transformers in the background. And Cabbage Patch. So this had to have been like 85, 80. Well, right there it is, 86.
Wow.
Creepy little elf. Here's one for G.I. Joe. Look at all those G.I. Joe figures and
I know
vehicles. Oh man, wish I had a time machine. Anyway, that's another one I remember. How about you? What's your next one?
I'm trying to get it to pop up right now. One of them happens to be old Micro Machines.
Oh yes,
and you get to talk to Joe Machida.
John Machida.
RetroCon. Yeah, it was awesome to see him in person. But to watch, the Micro Machines, him just rattle off new Micro Machines, blah, 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 blah. Just it was awesome from Lube. That it was just so cool. But the one thing I never liked, I love the commercials. Was not a fan of the Micro Machines because they were so freaking small. I was so afraid of losing them, so I never wanted one. In fact, the only Micro Machines that I own happens to be you're giving a screenshot while I'm doing it.
Yeah. We're going to get this down to where whoever's talking about it, the other person is putting the image up on the screen. We'll get this down yet. This is cool.
Yeah. So anyway, we're, the only machine I have is my mom got me back when the Dukes were starting to get popular again back in the late 90s, early 2000. They came back out with all types of Dukes, like the cars. You could buy the car sets and so forth. They had a Micro Machine. She found me a Micro Machine Boss Hogg's Caddy. And I still have that baby to this day. It's still in the same package, too.
Nice.
It out. How about you? Is there other jingles or any commercials?
Well, just back to John Machida there real quick. I had to find a Micro Machine set to get him to sign when we met him. And the only one I could find was a James Bond set. And he was like, man, I don't remember this one at all. But I had him sign it anyway. Because we were, scourging all the tables and stuff at RetroCon to try to find something for him to sign. And he gave us the whole story. It's a pretty unique story, and how he essentially got screwed over towards the end of his run as the Micro Machines man. And I think he said he even got the axe on like Christmas Eve or something.
It was Christmas Eve. I remember him saying that was the argument, basically with his agent, I believe. The agent was arguing with the new production or the new promotions people, saying, he's making you these millions, and he just, I guess they weren't believing it. They didn't want to accept it.
Yeah.
And no matter what was being said, they couldn't, he couldn't be convinced. So it was Christmas Eve that he got unfortunately let off. And it wasn't shortly after that there was basically nothing left of Galoob, at least not Micro Machines.
Right. So, yeah, pretty interesting. Well, I'm about out as far as, I could go into several different commercials. There's the Transformers ones where the kid transforms into a Transformer. You remember those? And they have like they'll give him like the robotic voice, and those are pretty memorable. What else do you have?
Well, unfortunately, I'm trying to find find it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry that it's taken a delay. It's not coming up. I just can't seem to find it right away. But anyway, the commercial was probably sticks out because we talked about it somewhat recently ago. I know in a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
There was a commercial with the kids playing, and they're playing with their mask toys. Mask being Mobile Armor Strike Command, just in case people are confusing with the other mask of Jim Carrey. Anyway, so that it's, I can't remember the wording. Was that for real or something to that effect? Anyway, there's a red DeLorean. And they fake it as being Thunderhawk.
Mm-hmm.
Because it has the gull-wing doors, so they have it closing.
Got the gull-wing doors.
Yeah. So they faked it, and I remember them doing that. I'm scouring, and of course, when I'm trying to look for it, I can't find it.
I think I might have found it. Keep talking.
You would. But nonetheless, yeah, you see the DeLorean transforming, and basically, was that for real? Or, was that our imagination or something to that effect? I can't remember how it's worded. I'm not having any luck. I know I sent it to you.
I mean, go ahead.
I know I sent it to you at some point, probably a year or two ago. I came across that video, and I sent it to you because we were actually in a Masscast discussion about it. And we were talking, I think as an opener, we were talking about the DeLorean somehow. And I said that there was a red model. And haphazardly, I came across, the next episode, I came across that specific commercial. So that still pops in and out of my head, probably because we had that discussion. But, but yeah, it was a good, good memories.
Yeah. And I do remember, well, and again, this is the way our brains work, because we actually wrote a movie script about Mobile Armor Strike Command. But seeing those commercials,
there it is. I knew I found it. Ha-ha.
Okay.
So
I remember seeing those commercials and thinking, okay, are these like real vehicles? They're going to pop up at your local mall, and you can be able to see Thunderhawk and Hurricane and some of these ones that they're showing on these commercials. And
right.
Oh yeah, there it is.
So yeah, there's the commercial. It's a silver one. I actually thought it was a red one all this time, but as you're seeing it, I fast forwarded it a couple clicks. There's them closing up the hatch, and it peels off.
That's crazy. I thought you were talking about the ones that they kind of fudged to look like the real vehicles, because there's another commercial I remember with like Hurricane, Slingshot, and some of those that
I just found them.
That shows like the little cannon coming from the windshield and all that stuff. I think that was the one I was just watching. But yeah, there's a
here's
it
Dusty
just made it more
Jeep.
Yeah, that's it.
Going through, and then just coming up here.
The actors, and
there's
Hurricane,
there's Thunderhawk bumper.
It's so cool. Yeah, they just made it look like they were real vehicles. So any of that translated into real life in these commercials, obviously, were really good for kids.
And Jason and I's dream vehicle is to try to make a working, maybe not jet power, but working Thunderhawk kit. Somehow. And we've joked with AKA Junk if it's feasible to do gull-wing doors on a Camaro.
Right.
So moving on.
Yeah, let's go ahead and move on. We could keep going on the toys as well, and maybe we will at some point. But you wanted to talk a little bit about maybe some other commercials outside of Saturday morning?
Well, I don't know if it really was, but this just hit me today, probably in the last, I'd say 2 or 3 hours. One of them we hinted about, I think, on one of our Memory Jogger podcasts, where the Ram truck is being dropped out of the ceiling. That was one of the commercials I do remember seeing to this day.
Yeah, and that was our VCR episode, VHS episode.
Yeah, and then McDonald's. I think this was a Saturday morning because you had the Fry guys, you had Grimace, you had the Hamburglar.
That whole cast of characters were awesome.
Yeah, and then they had those playgrounds.
They incorporated that into everything, the Happy Meals and even Happy Meal toys, and they had little puppets. I remember they were like a clear plastic bag, and they had the McDonald's characters on there, and they did a great job marketing to kids back in the day. The McNugget Buddies, you remember them?
I thought they were McNugget Buddies. I couldn't place them though for some reason. There's the Hamburglar right now. Trying to see if I can. They got those
McNuggets, and they added the McNugget Buddies. They did several commercials with them, dipping in the sauce and all of that stuff. There's the Fry guys. Yeah.
Yep. There's the Fry guys. There's the whole clan right there. There's Grimace.
Yeah.
I can't remember the bird's name.
Birdie.
Birdie.
Yeah.
There's some more.
Yeah. Yeah. McDonald's did a great job.
Oh, there's the cop.
Mayor McCheese. Is that Mayor McCheese? I can't remember.
You're better at it than I am. I wouldn't even know where to begin with him.
I don't know. I just look at the picture and these words pop in my head.
Oh, there's the cast. Who the heck is that?
I don't know. Sure as heck ain't Ronald.
No, and there's some pirate dude. It's amazing what you'll find on Memory Jogger.
Yeah, right. What are some other ones? Oh, one that popped in my head today. Wasn't Saturday morning, but the Wendy's lady. Where's the beef?
Yeah.
She was big for a long time for Wendy's. And even now that I think about it, going back to Micro Machines, man, all those FedEx commercials that he did. I mean, that was probably his first gig, his first time that he was on and we got to talk about him. He did all those FedEx commercials,
Did he?
Yeah.
A
lot for FedEx.
There's your where's the beef?
What's her name? It's gonna bug me. Can't remember what her name was.
Let's find out. Clara Peller.
Clara. That's right. Yep. Where's the beef was big. What else you got? We'll run through a few here at the end.
The clapper. Clap on, clap on. That's been a running gag periodically. Even to this day, there's still running gags. I see it, and all I can do is just nothing but laugh when I see it.
Yeah. The clapper, and also I've fallen and I can't get up.
Yeah, that was a riot, especially with people, changing it over the years. Help! I've fallen. I can't reach my beer, or something to that effect.
Right.
Then, what's the other one? Oh, the double mint gum and Big Red.
Juicy
fruit. Kiss a little longer.
Yeah, right. Juicy Fruit too, man. They had people like windsurfing and even Mentos, the Fresh Maker. Those are so cheesy. Oh my gosh. Another one. Okay, here's another one since we're kind of talking candy for a minute. Gum. There's just so much good. How about Twizzlers did this strange commercial where it's like lips and then the Twizzlers candy and Twizzlers make mouse happy, you know, and they go through this whole little spiel, and then there it is. Yep, the
That one.
lips.
Yep.
Yes. They would sing and then they would eat the Twizzlers, you know, and oh my gosh, that was a big one. What else you got?
One that was kind of fun, and I loved it with Wayne's World. And that's Suprin, little, yellow, different. It was just hilarious. And then they said it. It was just so fun.
You're giving me a headache. Yeah. That whole montage of him, drinking the Pepsi, eating the Pizza Hut pizza, the pill. Yeah, I mean, he just went through that whole thing perfectly. That's such a great scene.
It is.
I forgot about that. Another one that just came to my mind. How about probably the beer mascot of the 80s, the ultimate beer mascot of the 80s, Spuds McKenzie.
Oh, yeah.
He had his own, like, you know, whole like doll and toy line, and he was on t-shirts everywhere, and gosh, man,
Here he is.
Or she is actually.
Yeah.
Spuds was a girl. They just tortured that poor dog. They brought it back last year at the Super Bowl.
Oh, they did.
A little Spuds McKenzie. It was like the ghost of Spuds McKenzie or something. It was crazy. I just saw you scroll over it.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. But there were so many commercials, and they used the Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous guy as the announcer. Robin Leach. There's Spuds McKenzie. I can't do English accent. Sorry. Oh, there's another one. Yeah, man, they advertised the crap out of that.
They did. You know, I just punched it in. I'm like, I have yet to see any of these new boxes. I thought it was like one of those fads that when the 80s left, it left. But it's, I guess, still here.
Dexatrim.
You had the spinning pill.
Yeah, I remember. Oh my gosh. They did a lot of, the other thing that kind of hit me just thinking about this and trying to come up with some notes was all of those like call-in mail order stuff. So you had all of those like albums, special albums they would come up with. It's like hot jams or, you know, whatever. And they would, you know, give you a little taste of what's on the album, and then you could call in and get the thing. And but they did that a lot. All those infomercials for like Time Life and oh my gosh, they just seem to be everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think that does it for now.
Yeah,
I think we'd be here all while if we kept going.
Yeah, it's difficult to kind of just take a few here and a few there and not just rabbit trailed for the next 2 hours.
This was easy to do that. What should our next topic be? I know we did a mistake on our last memory jogger. We were still going and going with our thoughts, and we completely spaced what next topic to actually discuss.
So it was good this special topic kind of slid in so we could have an actual time to choose the next one. I don't know. We've been thinking about some, kind of staying back in like high school days and such. And one that I really want to touch on at some point is our beloved Clearfield County Fair, which we would go to each year, and we could talk about just, you know, the rides and the games and stuff that we played, the food. We could talk about maybe some of the concerts, other little events and stuff that we watched there. And just our kind of overall memories of going to the Clearfield County Fair each year.
Yeah.
What are some other ones that are kind of on your mind?
Well, the fair has been on my mind lately, I think, because of us talking about me and my sound system on my truck, going through the parade and then puddle hopping. It all equates to the, believe it or not, it all equates to the fairgrounds. So,
Yeah.
For the listeners, I think that's the best way to go. We have such a laundry list. I don't know where to even start.
Well, I guess if you're cool with that, then let's roll with that and see what happens on the next show, since it's kind of on my mind and kind of coming off our car episode there and what we ended on. I thought that might be a nice segue into all the fun stuff that happened at the fair.
Yeah,
and we could even throw in Kerwinsville Days. Did you go to Kerwinsville Days at all?
I did. I'll be honest, I wasn't a yearly patron. I know that there's a couple times where we missed it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I went to Kerwinsville Days and Grampian Days.
Never went to Grampian Days.
You weren't missing much. I don't think Du-Bois might have had something, but I don't remember it off the top of my head.
Yeah, there was always a little carnival that every town seemed to have. But those were the two that I remember in Kerwinsville, obviously growing up there, and then the Clearfield County Fair being probably one of the biggest there in central Pennsylvania, maybe except for maybe like down towards Bellefonte or State College when they put on, something, or even Altoona. But
for years, maybe I'm getting too far, but for years, the Clearfield County Fair was rated the top fair, even above the state fair, for a lot of years. Yes, it was a top rate, and then there was like a light switch. They either changed contracts for the entertainment venues, something snapped, and man, it just plummeted since then. And people to this day, unfortunately, really knock it because the prices just can't stay down. So people,
I do remember that after like moving away and coming back for the summer, maybe during college, and being like, it costs how much to get in?
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, well let's head down that road next time, and we'll talk about our wonderful memories of riding rides that were put up in a day, and the wonderful people that operated them, and all that fun stuff.
Sounds great.
Cool.
I guess we'll end on that note, and we want to thank you all for watching us, especially since we learned a new toy, screen sharing, and
yes, make it more entertaining, at least for the YouTube people.
Yeah, right? A lot. It's a real good push for those that want to expand their horizons on podcasting. Watch us now on YouTube. But no, listen to us as well. I know some of us can't always watch us while they're driving, obviously. But yeah, this has been fun. I love going down memory lane, memory jogger. I know you do too, Jason. It's man, it just keeps going and going. Like the Energizer Bunny. There's another commercial for you.
And the what was the Australian guy?
Get no Energizer. Wait.
Nice. Oh, yes. Good way to end the show.
Yeah. So on that note, I won't do like I have been doing.
Oh, come on.
I don't have anything prepped.
Okay. Well, hey, let me just quickly plug our fellow 80s leaguers who are going to be also posting on 80s television commercials mainly And that's our buddies over at the 80s Reboot podcast. They have a blog up on the SouthgateMediaGroup.com. There's also friends across the pond, WeegieMidget, which you can find on WordPress. Killer Kitsch, who's also on WordPress. We've got Return to the 80s, who has a podcast and also a blog. Stuck in the 80s. This is a blog through TampaBay.com. Also, I believe at SIT80s.com. And then we've got a couple new people coming on board for this round. OldSchoolEvil.com, which is all about like old school cartoons and the villains mainly. Very cool site. And then also RetroRamblings.com, another very cool retro site, very similar to essentially the topics and stuff that we post over on Rediscover the 80s. Also on Twitter at Yesterdayville. So looking forward to their contributions, and go check them out. I'll be posting their links when we get our show notes up for. So wanted to get that quick plug in there to them. And you can kind of continue the conversation over on their podcasts and blogs. So.
Well, I guess that wraps it up. And we'll close it out by saying the price is right when you use your classic concentration to press your luck. So spin the memory wheel as you run down Memory Jogger.
There you go. Oh, we got to talk about game shows sometime, man.
We do. That has to be on. I on a whim started thinking, okay, game shows. What can I do?
I could talk about game shows forever and all the kids' game shows, and
that's what we did every summer for like 3 or 4 years. Well, maybe less.
Oh yeah.
We might have to save it for next time.
Okay, we'll save it. We won't spoil it, but yeah, I did a podcast on. It's called the Eclectic Discussion Podcast, and we talked about game shows. I think it was maybe a 2-hour show. I mean, we could have literally gone on forever, but this covered more than just the 80s. But man, yeah, those summers. That's a very fond memory of our friendship, checking out game shows over the summer. We'll leave it at that.
Cool.
These awesome visuals for Press Your Luck. And this guy who won like. Have you seen that documentary?
Really?
On Press Your Luck?
No, I never did.
That dude right there. He actually discovered the pattern of the board. He like sat in his house and studied it and studied it and studied it. And then he got on the show and like won over $100,000 over several, days or something. And I don't know if they finally like kicked him off or what happened. And then there's this whole like investigation behind it and stuff. And it's a very entertaining documentary. I believe it's up on YouTube. They showed it on the Game Show Network. I don't know, probably about 10 years ago or so. But anyway, we'll save the rest for that show. But yeah, now that we got this up on YouTube, we'll make it a little more entertaining for you instead of staring at our ugly mugs. We got faces for radio, that's for sure. But thanks everybody for on YouTube, and we can catch you next time.
All right, we'll see you.